Christmas Eve at the Whispering Pine Lodge. Snowflakes danced through the cold air, settling gently on the roof of the Whispering Pine Lodge. Nestled deep within the snowy embrace of the forest, the lodge was a beacon of warmth and cheer on this festive night. Inside, Sarah and Daniel, siblings bound not just by blood but also by an unquenchable spirit of adventure, were busy hanging stockings by the crackling fireplace. Sarah, 10 years old, with bright eyes and an ever-present mischievous smile, hung her stocking with care, each movement deliberate. Daniel, her older brother by 2 years, balanced precariously on the arm of a plush sofa, attempting to place his stocking a little higher than his sister's. The lodge was filled with the rich, comforting aroma of cinnamon and pine, a scent that promised a Christmas filled with magic and wonder. The children's laughter echoed through the hall, blending harmoniously with the melodies of classic carols that whispered from an old record player in the corner. As the clock chimed 8, the wind howled louder, heralding a blizzard that swirled menacingly outside the thick, frosted windows. The siblings paused their playful antics, their attention momentarily captured by the whirling snow when a sudden knock at the door broke the enchantment of the evening. Curious and slightly cautious, Sarah approached the door with Daniel a few steps behind. As she opened it, a gust of icy wind rushed in, bringing with it a flurry of snow and a figure cloaked in red. The children gasped in awe and disbelief as the visitor stepped into the light, revealing herself to be none other than Mrs. Claus. Her eyes twinkled with a merry light, and her cheeks were as red as the berries on the holly wreaths hanging outside. "Good evening, dear ones," she greeted, her voice as warm as the quilt she wrapped around her shoulders. "I'm afraid I find myself in a bit of a pickle, and I could use your help." Sarah and Daniel exchanged excited glances. Mrs. Claus, needing their help. This was the kind of adventure they had only dreamed about. Mrs. Claus sat down by the fire, patting the seat beside her for the children to join. "You see," she began, pulling out a small, intricately carved box from her bag, "Santa is caught in this dreadful blizzard. He was supposed to pick up a special package here, at the Whispering Pine Lodge, but now it seems he might not make it in time." The children listened, spellbound, as Mrs. Claus unfolded the tale of Santa's delay and the crucial package that needed to be prepared before midnight. The spirit of adventure ignited within them. The warmth of the fire paled in comparison to the burning excitement in their hearts.
As the story of Mrs. Claus paused, the children eagerly agreed to help, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead but ready to face them with all the courage of true believers in the magic of Christmas.
As the fire crackled merrily, Mrs. Claus revealed the nature of their quest. The special package was none other than Santa's magical sack, filled with gifts for children around the world. Unfortunately, it was locked away in a storeroom at the lodge, and the key was missing. Mrs. Claus's cheeks dimmed slightly with worry. "The key," she said, "is hidden somewhere within the lodge. The previous owner was quite the fan of Christmas and loved creating puzzles. He hid the key as part of a festive scavenger hunt." Eager to help, Sarah and Daniel sprang into action. The first clue, according to Mrs. Claus, was hidden behind the portrait of the lodge's founder, old Mr. Greenwood, a jolly man with a beard almost as impressive as Santa's. The portrait hung majestically above the mantelpiece. Daniel lifted Sarah up so she could reach behind the painting. Her fingers fumbled across the cold, dusty frame until they brushed against a piece of paper. Pulling it out, She fluttered back to the ground, and they unfolded the clue together. It read, "When the time strikes joy, the path will show. Seek where warm drinks flow." The siblings glanced at each other, then at the large grandfather clock in the corner of the lounge, ticking steadily towards 9. "When the time strikes joy," Daniel muttered. "Maybe it means midnight, like the joy of Christmas Day?" "No, look!" Sarah pointed excitedly at the clock, where small figures of carolers appeared and retreated on the hour. They watched as the clock struck 9 and the carolers came out to sing. "It's the joy of music," she exclaimed. Their next stop was clear. They hurried to the lodge's kitchen, where a large, old-fashioned hot chocolate machine sat. This must be where warm drinks flow. After a thorough search, Sarah discovered the next clue taped to the bottom of the machine, leading them to the library. In the library, surrounded by books adorned with tales of winter and legends of Christmas, they found a book titled The Secrets of Christmas Eve, which, when pulled, revealed a hidden drawer. Inside, they found not just another clue, but also an old ornate key. But was it the right one? The clue was a riddle. "End where you rest, but not in your bed, the place where stories are nightly read." Quickly they realized it must mean the cozy reading nook by the fireplace in the main hall. Racing back to the hall, hearts pounding with excitement and the storm's howl echoing their rush, they approached the nook. Here, nestled among piled cushions, was a small iron chest. With bated breath, Sarah inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open, revealing, much to their awe and delight, the final clue along with a bright, shimmering golden key, undoubtedly the one to the storeroom. With the golden key in hand, the excitement in the air was palpable as Sarah, Daniel, and Mrs. Claus made their way to the storeroom. The lodge, with its beams groaning softly under the weight of the snow, seemed to acknowledge their nearing success. Upon reaching the storeroom door, tucked away in a quiet corner of the lodge, Daniel inserted the golden key into the lock, and with a turn, the door creaked open, revealing the storied magical sack of Santa Claus. It lay there unassumingly on an old wooden table, surrounded by scattered tools and maps of worldwide chimney routes. Mrs. Claus's eyes sparkled with relief and joy as she stepped forward to retrieve the sack. "Oh, thank you, my dears," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how many children will wake to happiness because of your bravery and cleverness tonight." Just then, a gust of wind heralded the arrival of a new guest. The door flew open with a dramatic flourish, and there stood Santa Claus himself, his red suit speckled with snow, his eyes twinkling behind frosted spectacles. "Ho, ho, ho! It seems I owe a great debt of gratitude to 3 exceptionally brave and clever friends," he boomed, his voice as warm as the lodge's fire. Santa's arrival filled the room with an infectious mirth that only Santa himself could bring. He gathered the magical sack, now safely retrieved, and prepared to continue his night's journey. But first, he turned to Sarah and Daniel, pulling out 2 small, beautifully wrapped packages from his coat. "A little something to show my gratitude," he winked. As the clock struck midnight, signaling the start of Christmas, the lodge was filled with laughter and festive cheer. Santa shared stories of his travels and close calls, each tale more unbelievable than the last, while Mrs. Claus served hot chocolate and cookies. Before long, it was time for Santa and Mrs. Claus to depart. With promises to visit next year, they disappeared into the snowy night, their sleigh's bells fading into the distance. Sarah and Daniel watched through the window, their hearts full of joy and the magic of Christmas firmly renewed in their spirits. As they headed back to the warmth of the fire, they knew this was a Christmas Eve they would never forget. The Whispering Pine Lodge had been more than just a shelter from the storm. It had been a gateway to their greatest adventure. Together, the siblings sat down by the reading nook, the very spot of their last clue, and opened Santa's gifts. Inside were magical snow globes, each one a miniature of the Whispering Pine Lodge, complete with swirling snow and a tiny Santa sleigh flying over. It was a perfect memento of a perfect Christmas Eve. As the fire dwindled to glowing embers and their eyes grew heavy, Sarah and Daniel knew that the magic of this Christmas would live in their hearts forever. They had saved Christmas, made new friends, and discovered that the true spirit of Christmas was about believing in the impossible and helping others, no matter how daunting the task.